This is She Creates Business, a podcast for wedding pros. Your host, Lindsay Roberts, interviews incredible women in the wedding industry who are making their mark and creating success on their terms. Join the conversation.
Hello there, and welcome to episode 137 of She Creates Business, a podcast for wedding pros. This is your host, Lindsay Roberts. Thank you for joining me for part 2 of how to prepare your wedding venue for engagement season. We posted part 1 back on episode 136, and I did split the interview. So if you haven't listened to part 1 in episode 136, the place that we start off here in episode 137 is totally fine to start off. You could go back and listen to episode 136 later, but just so you know, I did split the interview. So our starting point here is right in the middle of that interview. We left off with episode 136 talking about how it's okay to put work in your venue portfolio that will attract the type of client you're trying to attract. You don't have to put every single wedding in your portfolio. It doesn't mean that you didn't love those clients. It just means that maybe that wasn't the style of wedding you're looking to attract at the venue. And so your portfolio should be a portfolio of work of the types of couples you want to have at your venue. Lindsay and I kind of made a joke at the end of the last episode that I wouldn't even put my own wedding in my Vista View Events portfolio. And that's true. And then we started talking about prom and how ridiculous we were. So that's kind of where we start off here. We quickly get over that and get back into the rest of the tips for preparing your venue for wedding season. And I mentioned this at the top of episode 136, but if you are not a venue owner, stick with us. These tips definitely apply to you. And we give venue specific examples, but I know you guys are really on the ball with your business. And I know that you could use those examples and filter them through your own business lens and apply them to how they make sense for your photography business, your planning business, your calligraphy business, et cetera, et cetera. Give me a shout if you have any questions about these tips. You can DM me on Instagram at She Creates Business. That's the easiest way to get a hold of me. Or you can email me, Kinsey at shecreatesbusinesspodcast.com. Now, I want to let you know that Lindsay has a few things for you. If you are a venue owner and you need some help with venue running your business, if you're just getting started, the Venue Academy isn't open right now, but she has some other offerings that I think you might be interested in. You can find her over at thelindsaylucas.com. I will put that link in the show notes. I encourage all venue owners to go to her. She is a wealth of knowledge and she has worked with venue owners across the country. So she really has she has a beat on the pulse of the venue industry. And I'm very happy that she came on this episode for part 2 of preparing our venues for engagement season. So without further ado, let's go to the show.
Awesome. Okay. Well, before we get too far off on a tangent with my prom story.
What else we got here?
Okay. Next up is refreshing our online presence. I'm so glad that this is like towards the end of us, preparing the venue for engagement season, or like primarily the business end of this, because this is like this is what is essentially attracting the majority of new brides, right?
Okay.
Is the first place that millennial brides and that Generation Z are going to go is going to be probably social first, website second, from social. And so auditing those things, and again, making sure that they are updated with a lot of the same things that we mentioned in the CRM system. So making sure that all of the copy on your website is up to date. Read through everything with fresh eyes, because sometimes when we read things a million times over and over, we miss blatant typos and we don't mean to. So read through all of the copy with fresh eyes. Make sure that it is speaking to those clients that you do want to attract. Update your photos. Make sure once all of the content on the website is completely up to date, you have gorgeous photos from your most recent weddings up there. Go through on the user side and make sure that all of your links work properly. And then do a test run through your contact form. First of all, make sure that your contact form has all of the specified areas that you want to be requesting information. It has all of the pertinent information that you want them to know, like maybe your office hours, so that, if they do happen to reach out and call after hours, they're going to get your voicemail, and here's why. Here's our hours. making sure that your physical address is accurate with your Google business listing. I had a client recently that was having all these problems with clients going to a different entrance on her ranch than her real one. And it was because the two addresses weren't the same on her website and on her business listing. And so sometimes little details like that that are seemingly obvious are ones that we have a tendency to overlook the most because they're easy. And then doing a test run again through that contact form, making sure that it's submitting properly and you're getting the correct information, whether that's that autoresponder or a brochure, however you have that workflow set up, they're getting that within a timely manner and without any hiccups.
Yes.
Do you have anything to add to website? You just did a whole refresh, so.
I did. No, that sounds great. Let's see. No, I feel like you touched on everything that I'm still going through right now. I'm still doing my audit.
Good. I know it's like tiring and whatnot with all the details, but
it's worth it.
Yeah, it's totally worth it.
Yeah.
And all the information is fresh.
Yeah.
You know?
I would just say the only thing I would add is, do you have any, make sure all of your content is fresh and all of that. Do you have anything you want to add? Is there this kind of goes back to what I was saying about giving couples information in more than one place and not thinking that, if it's in my bride guide, if it's in my contract, that's all they need, that's all they get. So is there anything you want to add? Do you want to pop some PDFs onto your wedding page? Do you need to update your FAQ page I'm a huge fan of answering questions. Well, I know we go back and forth in this and a lot of vendors will feel different ways. And again, do what's good for your business. It's sort of like the pricing question. Should your pricing be on your website? It's totally up to you. But at this point in the game, 2019, people are on their mobile device. They want answers to their questions, especially if your brides are millennials like ours. And they're kind of like, if I have to reach out to someone, I want to make sure I get, very specific questions answered. Could you just tell me, XYZ? Can I just know if chairs are included with your venue? You know what I mean? So is there stuff like that you need to add and make it super easy for your couples to find? And then also, in my opinion, it gives you more qualified leads in your inbox because you've answered questions already.
Absolutely. I love that. And just going back to the whole, should my pricing be on my website debacle? I feel like that's the great debate. And I know that we could get off on a tangent on this, so I don't want to live here long. But I do want to mention something. I think it was one of those things that is kind of like what's duh to you is mind-blowing to somebody else. I was talking to one of my clients, and she, of course, brought the question up, should I have my pricing on my website? Should I not? And so I don't ever like to 100% make that decision for my clients, but I do like to help them and lead them through the pros and cons so that they can make their own decision as far as what they feel like is in their best interest for their business. And so through navigating that conversation, I was like, why don't we have the best of both worlds to where it's not living on the public side of your website, but inquiries are still automatically getting your pricing information. And so what that looked like was she uses Dubsado as well. And so as soon as an inquiry selects a drop-down menu of what type of event are you interested in hosting here at our venue, when they select wedding, it triggers an automatic response, and it's an email that they get in return. Inside that email is a link to a hidden page on their website. So anybody that is just like in the public on the website, they can't find this page at all. And so instead of sending a brochure in the email with all of the pricing, they have a beautiful autoresponder set up that talks about the venue. It has pictures of the venue. And the catch is that the bride actually has to read the email and see that there's that link. When she clicks on it, it brings up a hidden page on her website that lists all of her pricing. It talks about inclusions and has all of these beautiful photos. And it's really, really intriguing. And also, I think that it speaks a little bit more to that millennial bride of, oh, hey, they are a little edgy, they're techie, they're on top of things. So anyway, I just wanted to give like a little workaround. Like if you feel kind of not necessarily stuck in the middle, but you're like, I don't feel like I fit in one extreme category or the other of I have strong feelings not having my pricing on the website, or I have strong feelings about having my pricing on my website and I want to. This is kind of a good compromise, meet in the middle with that whole subject.
Yes, that's a great compromise. And also, as you're thinking about this, I feel like this answer for venues specifically really depends on how you're pricing. So we can all put a starting price on our website or a range or what have you, but it also kind of depends on how you price. For me, our pricing is super simple. We don't do proposal style pricing. We don't have a lot of a la carte options. It's really just, if you book on this date of the week, here's our pricing. And everything's included if you book on this date. And that works for us and that works for our market. And so for me, I like to have pricing on the website because Saturday. It doesn't matter, there's not an a la carte option of 10 things or 1,000 rental inventory or anything of that nature. But if that's your venue, then at that point, that's complicated, right? It's like, are they only going to use 500 pieces or are they going to use all 1,000? You know what I mean? That's a proposal style. And that gets into, you got to get into the weeds with those couples. So I like Lindsay's thing because at that point, on a page like that, you can get into the weeds a little bit more and say, hey, here's 3 examples. Here's 3 example packages.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Let's talk about your advertising audit. As you're refreshing your online presence. Actually, let's not. Let's back up really quick and talk about your social media audit.
Perfect. Let's do it.
I think that this goes hand in hand with, I mentioned earlier a couple of times, and if you went through a rebrand this year, in addition to making sure your CRM system and your website looks good, you have to go audit all of your social handles, of course, change your logos, change your photos. If you kind of change the way you talk about your business, like for instance, our business name is Vista View Events at Open Heart Ranch. If for any reason I ever take off at Open Heart Ranch, I would need to go audit all of these things and take that off of all of our collateral that is living on social media. So do you need to update your little snippets? Do you want to update your business descriptions on Instagram, on Pinterest, on Facebook? Those are things to look at. Do you want to take people to a new page on your website? So do you want to change the links? Is it just going to your homepage right now? If it is, would you be better served taking people to your events or weddings page, changing the URLs then in those descriptions? A couple cool things happened with Facebook recently. You can now, if you have video, if you have quite a lot of videos, you can do kind of what's it called, Lindsay? You can select a premiere video for people to see when they land on your Facebook page. So if you have videos, take a peek and see if there's one you want to highlight, and then it appears at the top of your page. And I think it automatically starts playing when people visit your Facebook page. And I think that's a really neat feature.
Yeah, I agree. I love it. I think that video, I know that video has been talked about for a couple of years now, but it is definitely one of those aspects that is more and more on the rise, especially, of course, the professional videos, but I feel like as millennials are coming and then that Generation Z right behind them, I feel like they want more authenticity in video, which is perfect for social.
Mm-hmm. I agree. And if you want to take a look, so going deeper and kind of auditing your social media as far as marketing, we are going to have an upcoming episode about getting new clients and marketing, but I also did an audit your business episode, and I'm sorry, I don't have the number right in front of me right now, but I will find it for you guys. I did an episode I'll put it in the show notes too, about auditing your business. And in that episode, I dive deeper and get more into the weeds about how to audit what's working, what's not working, and what you could potentially do on social media in the coming years that could, kind of change the trajectory if that's what you're looking to do. So this is more about refreshing that online presence and not this particular episode, and not necessarily about, okay, here's different marketing ideas. We'll get into that later.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. All right. Do you have anything else that you wanted to add before we dive into an advertising audit?
I don't think so. Well, I guess one thing I want to add about refreshing your online presence, and this is really more about the business audit as far as social media, but I just want to say more isn't always better. And I think we all know that, quality over quantity and things of that nature. So, this year, next year, all the years to follow, there's always going to be new social media platforms that we could test. And I would say it's okay to be on the leading edge or the cutting edge and test new things and be one of the front runners, but really make those decisions diligently before you hop on a lot of social media channels that come up in the future, as they are sure to do, to make sure that they're going to benefit your business, so that, the next year when you have to do this, refresh your online presence before engagement season, you're not like, okay, now I have to go audit 57 social channels.
Absolutely. Yes. Okay. So advertising. I think the very first thing that I like to do when doing an audit of advertising for clients is I like to have a conversation, obviously, about budget first, because we can't make decisions if we don't know, like, how much can I spend? Is my budget the same as last year? Should I increase it or should I decrease it? What advertising worked better? And the majority of the decisions centered around advertising are going to come back to what's that dollar amount? And is it working for me or is it not? Bottom line. So taking another look at your budget for the year, the quarter, and making those decisions and figuring that out as accurately as you can is going to serve you longer in making these decisions. And so, first of all, once you have your budget figured out, more than likely you are on multiple different paid advertising platforms. Maybe you're on The Knot, and you're on Wedding Spot, and you're on the Venue Report. So 3 different advertising platforms, 3 different bios, 3 different storefronts. And so we're going to first be going through and taking a look at all of our analytics first. So we're going to say, like, which ones are performing the best for us, and maybe even categorizing them and saying, you know what, the Venue Report is actually not bringing me a ton of leads, but it's converting. I have the highest conversion rate on the Venue Report versus the Knot, where I'm getting a ton of inquiries, but nobody's booking tours. And then you have that middle ground and whichever platform that is for you. So number one, which one is performing the best? Which one is converting the best? Of those that aren't your top tier one, take a look at your contracts, your agreements that are in place with those paid platforms. Can you leave or decrease your account? What are you legally allowed to do here? And so figure out exactly what your rights are, what you want to do in an ideal world, and move forward accordingly. And then if it is performing well, do you maybe want to, if you are able to, drop the platform that is the least performing for you and reallocate those dollars to upgrade to the next level of the platform that is performing really well for you? Or is it better for you to reallocate those dollars maybe to social media advertising? So you have a lot of options here. So really taking a look at your numbers. The great thing about numbers is that they don't lie. And so being able to take a look at everything, digest those appropriately, and make educated decisions is key here. Once you have those decisions made, you're going to go and take a look at your storefronts and your portfolios. So again, same thing here that we've been saying throughout this whole episode is, are your pictures updated? Is your copy up to date? Do all of the links work? Is there if you went through a rebrand, is there anything that you need to update with logos and all of that? And just making sure that your brand is cohesive across all platforms.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And can you add video? If you don't have any videos on your paid directory sites, please get those on there if you can. I know you can on the Knot and Wedding Wire. So upload videos. Video crushes it. So get some video. Yeah. If you don't have any, but you know that some photographers did some videography work as well. Or I'm sorry, if you have any videography work from weddings that you're super proud of, ask permission first, as always, and get those on your directories.
Yeah, absolutely. And take a look. Most of those directories, they're going to have, Kinsey, help me out here. What are they called? Where it's kind of like, here are the suggested sizes or whatever that perform the best on the storefronts.
Yeah. The sizes
like,
of your images and your videos.
Yeah. Yes. So review those helpful documents, and make sure that if you are going to be able to put video on there, that you are doing it according to their suggested sizes so that it performs to its optimal performance, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Totally. And again, this is another spot that's a really good idea for you to get off the admin side and look at your storefronts from the client perspective. Make sure you're not logged in at all. And of course, look at it on your computer, but more importantly, look at it on your mobile devices. How does it look? How do your photos look? How do your videos look? And make sure everything is mobile optimized.
Perfect.
Cool.
Do you want to talk about print?
Yeah, I do. So if you are advertising via print, there's just a few things to kind of audit here and refresh. Do you need to create a new print ad with fresh copy, fresh images? Did you get some images from weddings this year that are they just blow you away, and that's what you want your print ads to look like? Get in touch with your account manager with whatever magazines you're advertising in and see when your ad will renew, when can you submit, things of that nature. Submit your new artwork, for the print ad. Do you want to upgrade? Are you just doing maybe a sidebar or a half page and that magazine has been performing really well for you? So you want to commit to a full page. Maybe you want to get it on the inside cover of a magazine and upgrade that way. So just a few things there in print. Print magazines, of course, have a longer shelf life than our online presences do. And they're just online. It's very easy to update. You can update it 5 minutes later if you wanted to, but print lives longer, right, on the shelf. So we have a print ad in a regional magazine right now. And I think it's going to be that magazine, comes out a couple times a year. I cannot remember. Don't quote me on that. But, so I can't update that ad I can't just call my account manager and say, hey, can I update this ad today? Because that magazine's going to live on the shelf in Barnes and Noble and grocery stores for months. So this is just a good time to relook at those contracts, see when your ad is up, see when a new magazine is going to be published, and get new copy, new artwork in those magazines if you want to.
Perfect.
Mm-hmm. So let's chat about an online refresh. We talked about web and social. This is more information. If you have any questions about online, or if you hear something we didn't cover, let us know. But I really want to dig into Google business listings for venues, because you know how I feel about these.
Oh my gosh, I know. I'm so excited for you to drop some knowledge bombs here, because you boxered me about this one thing in particular. And I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't know that it could do this. That's brilliant. So I will let you lead the way here.
Okay. Thank you. No, I'm just kidding.
Curtsy.
Thank you. Okay. Google business listing. Number one, when I say Google business listing, if you're kind of snickering at me, oh, you silly girl, let me change your mind really quickly. Google business listings are, as you know, we have physical location businesses. We are brick and mortars, baby. We do a lot of stuff online, but we are local. We have to have a Google business listing. You have to claim your Google business listing. If you haven't, stop this podcast right now and go do that. It is imperative. And I'm going to tell you why. Google is Google. We all know that. It's the 800-pound gorilla, and you want them to recognize your business. You want them to recognize your address. It helps people get directions easier to your venue. You can create custom photos. There is so much you can do on your Google business listing. Number one, if you have one, good for you. High five. Send me a DM. I'm going to hug you virtually. Confirm all of your details are correct. That's part of the audit. If you don't have one, part of your audit is getting one and making sure you enter all of your details correct. The next thing is this: update your photos. Update your photos and your video on your Google business listing. Your customers can also post photos. That's wonderful, but you want to make sure you get really beautiful professional photos on your Google business listing as well. Now, here is the kicker that Lindsay was talking about, and this is so valuable for venues, or as venue owners and as venues. You can hire a Google photographer and videographer to do a 3D tour that appears on your Google listing of your venue. I'm going to say that one more time. You can hire a Google photographer/videographer that will come to your property and do a Google certified 3D tour of your venue, and that 3D tour will appear on your Google business listing. Here is the unfortunate thing. If you are in a rural location like I am, there may not be a Google photographer / videographer available. I found that out for myself because I wanted to hire one and they said, darn, we're not available in your area yet, but check back. If you are in a metropolitan area or if you don't live in the middle of nowhere like I do, go ahead and check. There's no obligation. You just email Google, log into Google Business Listing on the admin side, and you'll see the place to contact Google to say, hey, I'm interested. And they'll give you all of the information, estimated cost. This is so darn valuable. I cannot even tell you guys, who doesn't want to see the inside of your venue? This goes back to, being clear is being kind. I would love to see the interior of a venue if I was a couple searching online. It would set you apart instantly.
Yep. Oh, 100%.
Instantly. Yes. If you're like me and you can't get a 3D tour, then you need to hire a videographer to come do a walkthrough tour of your venue and put that on your Google business listing. Do the best you can with what you have. But if we can show our couples these tours, it's going to set us apart. Do you agree?
Oh, I 100% agree. Number one, everything that you're saying is absolutely correct. If I'm a bride, I don't want to take time off of work on my lunch break, drive to the venue and show up and be like, oh my gosh, the pictures that I saw online just do not represent, I'm not getting the same thing. They're going to feel like maybe it's a bait and switch. So if you're able to show off your venue in the best light through a 3D tour and give them a better idea. Number one, it's going to save you time because more than likely it's going to be attracting more of your ideal client instead of it attracting clients that, number one, maybe can't afford you or think that your venue is something different than what it actually is when they show up on site. So, but aside from all of that, and everything that you mentioned is spot on, but just to add to that a little bit more, from an SEO perspective, can we just talk about this?
That's right.
We all know Google loves Google, right? Nobody loves Google more than Google itself, and they own the earth, I feel like. Yes. So, and we all know that anything that speaks to Google is simply going to enhance your Google listing. So if you are able to hire a Google photographer or videographer, first of all, should we give the disclaimer that this episode is not sponsored by Google?
Oh, yeah. This episode is not sponsored by Google, you guys.
That probably didn't matter, but, I felt like I was saying Google a lot. But if you are able to do that, then that is such great news for you because having that on your listing is just going to enhance it even more and bump you up above your competition as far as like the number of listings and where you are ranking on Google.
Yes. Now, one thing I want to mention here, I mentioned that you can, of course, add your own photos to your Google business listing and that your customers can as well. I haven't learned, and if you know this, I would love for you to let me know, but I haven't learned how you can approve or delete client photos. We have some client photos that I'm not super happy with, and they show up super high on my photo list on our Google business listing. So I don't quote me on this again. I don't know for sure. I just haven't found the way, but I don't think there's a way for you to be able to approve or delete photos that you don't like. So anyway, just be aware of that. It's not a reason not to have a Google business listing though.
Yeah. Just one of those unfortunate details. Everything has pros and cons.
Yeah,
so.
Totally. So in addition to that, let's talk about reviews. We mentioned this briefly. Google, of course, shows your reviews on your Google business listing whenever anybody is looking up your business, searching through Google. And again, these reviews you own. You can take these with you. You can take screenshots of these. And I think it's important to ask people to leave your reviews on Google, again, because it's the biggest search engine in the world. Talk to us about reviews, Lindsay, because I know you feel strongly about this as well. Oh my gosh, I feel so strongly about this. And again, this definitely needs to be its own episode. Yeah.
But I won't dive too far into this story. But I have a good friend. He's a very, very smart business owner, probably one of the smartest business minds that I personally know. And he recently fell under attack. And I know that sounds dramatic, but that is what the federal government labeled it as a, oh gosh, what was the actual term? Basically, it was a virtual attack. And so it was a group of people that came on to all of his platforms where he requested reviews and left 1-star reviews on everything with the most horrendous comments you have ever seen. And because he put all of his efforts into getting reviews on The Knot and getting reviews on social media, on his Facebook business page, those online platforms were annihilated within 4 hours. Everything that he had worked for in 10 years was completely annihilated within 4 hours. Now, Facebook ended up shutting down his business page, which, to be honest, he was actually thankful for, because then it prevented anybody else from submitting nasty reviews. And then the Knot platform dropped him without any warning at all, because, and there is a clause in their contract that backs this up. And so this is another reason why we should always read every contract that we agree to. But they dropped him, and he lost all of those reviews, even the positive ones. And so he was basically starting over from scratch. And when he started over, he did his due diligence and educated himself and realized Google is where I need to be, because out of all of the platforms, Google is the place that I have the most ownership over my business's reputation.
That's right. And okay, so we're just really quick caveat. We're not telling you that story to like scare you and freak you out.
No.
That is a very specific example, but it's just informative. And also, if you're like, oh, I know that story, we are not saying how we feel about that story one way or the other. That's not what this podcast is for. We're just giving you an example of what can happen. And this is actually no different than anyone ever saying, oh, don't invest don't build your business on someone else's land in any capacity. You need to have your own website. You need to have your own blog, that sort of thing. How people always talk about social media that way. So that's what we're trying to say here. So just don't hear what we're not saying.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
Thank you for saying that.
Yeah.
I am so protective of my friend. I just get caught up in the story.
No, it's so good. And I think we're all protective of our friends. And I'm that's why you're an amazing friend. That's why I love you. But I wanted to say that because this is this podcast and that's that story. Okay. I like this because you have an email template.
I do have an email template. Do you want it?
I mean, I want you to tell them about it.
Yeah. So, what exactly do you want to know about it?
Tell them about the email template you have for requesting reviews from couples within the last 12 months.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So some of us, I'm raising my hand
I just raised my hand. Okay.
So aside from my being a venue consultant, I also own a second business where we do wedding planning in Houston. And I, as a business owner, do not do a good job of requesting reviews. So you should definitely do what I say and not as I do, one of those type of things. But I realized that I didn't do a good job of this. And when I went back and took a look at all of my reviews, I realized the very last one that I had received was well over a year ago, which is terrible of me. And so I thought, well, we have had all happy brides. I can't remember one bride that was unhappy. And so I thought to myself, well, the reason they're not leaving reviews is because we're simply not asking. It's that easy. If you don't ask, you'll never have the opportunity to receive what you're wanting. And so anyway, I created an email template that just basically says, we are enhancing our online presence, and we had so much fun with you, and you were just a dream bride to work with. We would love to attract more brides like you. And I know that it's been a hot second since you had your wedding with us, or we did your wedding. But would you please take 2 minutes to leave us a quick review on Google, insert link. And I kid you not, about 90% of our brides went and left us a positive review. It was amazing.
So good.
Yeah,
That's
it was wonderful.
genius.
Yeah. So I sent that, which felt great because I felt like I was all caught up, right? And then we added that into our workflow. Not that specific email template because it didn't pertain to current brides, but I rewrote it basically and requested that our current brides after the wedding, I actually schedule my review request to go out 7 days after the wedding because most brides take a honeymoon for about a week. That's the average length of a honeymoon. And so I schedule it for 7 days after the wedding. So when they return to work that Monday after their honeymoon, it's at the top of their inbox. And it has a direct link. Again, we want to make it as easy as possible on those brides to leave a review.
Brilliant. So good. Can they, I love your verbiage. How can they get your email template? Is it in your shop?
It will be in my shop, but my shop is not live quite yet. I'm working on it, I promise. Why don't I just make it as a free download?
Okay.
I'll do that.
Okay. We'll have a free download, you guys. Yay, Lindsay.
Okay. Go to thelindsaylucas.com.
Perfect. I'll put that in the show notes too, friends.
Okay.
Okay. As we wrap up here, I think, our last kind of tick on this checklist is social, which I feel like we've done a really good job of already covering, especially when we covered the online presence. We talked about Facebook, updating your pictures, updating your cover photo, adding video, updating your about section, contact info, hours, location. We really covered all of that. And again, this episode is not meant to give you a marketing plan. It's just to tell you, hey, do these kinds of audits. But one thing we didn't talk about, and this kind of goes hand in hand with being communicative and also, freeing up your time and protecting your time, especially during wedding season, is if you don't have the Facebook autoresponder set up, I might encourage you to do that. Now, again, this is up to your business. And if you get a ton of brides off of Facebook and you totally don't mind them DMing you on Facebook, you just reply on your phone and that's your thing, then this is not for you. But for me, I don't like to do that. I don't always have service on my cell phone. And I want to keep all of my communication in one place, and that's our inbox. So I have an autoresponder set up, which you can do directly on your Facebook business page. And it just says simply, hey there, we're super excited to chat with you and can't wait to hear more about your wedding. We do all of our communication via email. Could you please shoot us an email at hello@vistaviewevents.com? Warmly, Kinsey. That's all it says. And then that way, and I don't reply other than that. If they choose not to email us, then that's fine. Most people do. If they choose not to, then I don't reply and say, hey, did you have any questions? Because I have that autoresponder and I want it to do its job. And again, I just don't have the bandwidth to reply to messages in 4 different spots. So there's that.
Perfect. I love that. And it's also conditioning our clients on our boundaries as well.
That's right. That's right. And boundaries are important. And you guys know this as business owners. We are spouses. Some of us are parents. We have, fur kids, all kinds of stuff. Like boundaries are super important, especially during wedding season because it's busy. It takes a lot out of us. And we do have to have just time to ourselves. And we do have to have things streamlined in order to run smart business, but also to run businesses that don't take over our lives.
Amen.
Cool. Let's touch on Pinterest really quickly because I feel like we do have 2 good, what's the word I'm looking for, Lindsay? We have 2
knowledge nuggets.
Thank you. Yeah, we just have 2. We have 2 good places to send you for Pinterest information. If Pinterest is something on your list that you really want to get good at this year, or that you really want to take advantage of, my resource. That's what I was trying to think of.
Resource.
Boom, there it is. 2 resources. My resource that I want to recommend for Pinterest is Simple Pin Podcast. It's hosted by Kate All. She also runs a Pinterest management company, and it's a brilliant podcast. She really gives you tips that you can take away and implement in your business, which I love. And so I'm not a pro on Pinterest. I just want to recommend that podcast and, Kate All's other information on her blog if you are interested in upping your Pinterest game and getting your Pinterest house in order before wedding season.
Awesome. And the resource that I want to talk about is my sweet friend, Vanessa Kynes. She just launched a brand new course called Pin Progress. It's incredible. She does such a good job. Okay, I will get vulnerable here for just a second. I am not good at Pinterest. I don't understand it, nor do I take the time that I should to learn it. But Vanessa does a fantastic job of breaking down all of that information, even down to my level, so that I can understand it. And so if you are interested in learning about Pinterest, I'd love to encourage you to go check out her course.
Yes. And interesting information there. Vanessa Kynes has been a guest on the Simple Pin podcast. So good things all around.
There you go. Full circle.
Full circle. We just came full circle. This was a huge episode. I hope this was helpful for you guys. And this is a lot of information and this is a lot to do. If you have people who work for you and you can sit down and do this in a hardcore 10-hour day, good on you. Whatever works for your workflow. Otherwise, I feel like this is something that gets done in chunks. If you want to say, this is my week to prep for wedding season and assign each of these sections we talked about today to batch on a day of the week for 5 days, good on you. Whatever works in your workflow. This is not something you have to sit down and do all at once, but if you could take it, piece by piece and start implementing it into your business before you get real hammered with weddings. I know our first wedding is coming up on May 4th. I would love to see that and let us know if we can support you in any way.
Yeah. I'm cheering you on.
Me too.
You can do this.
You can find Mrs. Lindsay Lucas at thelindsaylucas.com. I'm going to have that in the show notes. If you are interested in the Venue Academy, which I'm sure a lot of you are, if you're listening as a venue owner, it's not currently open. That's Lindsay's flagship course. But I will, again, include all of her contact information in the show notes. To find the show notes, it really depends on what podcast player you're in. I always have people ask me that. Go to Google and say how to find the show notes and then insert the name of the podcast player you're using, and it'll tell you exactly how to do that. If you have any questions, please, the best way to get a hold of me, just DM me on Instagram. I am at She Creates Business. Lindsay is at the Lindsay Lucas. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Cool. And we have a more awesome venue content coming up for you. Lindsay and I are super excited about what the future holds for venue content on this podcast. Can't wait to share it with you. This is just the first of a few exciting things to come. Yeah.
Yeah. Podcast parties.
Whoop, whoop. All right, you guys, we will talk to you next time. Thank you so much. Lindsay, thank you again for all of your knowledge. I just love how open and honest you are. I appreciate you every time you're on the show.
Oh, thanks so much for having me. You're the best.
You're the best. Bye, girl.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to She Creates Business. Please take a minute and head to iTunes to leave an honest review so we can help more wedding pros find the show.